All righty, folks. All righty, folks. Uh, Tonight is day two. Tonight is day two of our podcast challenge. All right. Tonight is day two of our podcast challenge. Before we get started, I want you to go ahead and drop in the comments. I want you to drop in the comments for me what has been the biggest takeaway for you thus far. Drop in the comments what has been the biggest takeaway for you thus far from our time just the other day. And as we get ready to get into tonight's training, I need to know what was the biggest aha moment, what was a good takeaway. We need to know, right? And we need to know what was your biggest takeaway because we want to make sure that you're getting value, right? Want to make sure you're getting value. Want to make sure we're live. And just for accountability purpose, share this with one person. Share this with one person you're connected to. Share this with one person that you are you're friends with, whatever it might be, just to make sure that if you told them that you're going to start a podcast this year, right? Then they will see you doing the work and they'll see you going in doing what you said that you were going to do. Okay? So, yeah, go ahead and drop your takeaways thus far. Go ahead and drop your takeaways in the chat for me. And I want to be able to, share those with others and be able to spotlight you and be able to talk about what you got from the training. And also just so others can see what you got and what you're taking away. And also just quick check in. Let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from, just so we also can shout you out down in the chat. But before we get into new content tonight, I always like to recap. Okay. I don't know about y'all, but I like to recap to make sure that nothing's lost in translation, to make sure that if you did miss something the other day, well, you won't miss it today. So let's go ahead and get ready to get into this recap. Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? Okay. Yeah. So yesterday, what we were talking about, yesterday was day one, like I said before. And let me just open this up and share our screen. Share our screen, and we'll go here, go there, and we'll go there. Boom. Okay. So yesterday was day one of our 2-day podcast challenge. And what did we talk about day one? Comment in the chat if you have a big takeaway. But we talked about what's the purpose of your podcast, right? Why do you want to do this thing? Is it because you just want to do it for fun? You want to shoot the breeze, you want to hop on the mic, you want to talk to other people, you want to talk to friends. Is that why you're doing this podcast? What is the purpose for your podcast, right? Then I said maybe it's passion. And passion is bigger than a purpose, right? Passion is bigger than a purpose, is bigger than a drive. What's going on, Pauline? And the part that is even further than passion would be mission focused, right? So you're doing this podcast because you want to do something that's going to help people along the lines of a mission. Last night, I used the example of maybe helping 1,000 people be able to buy their first home. So by way of you doing that, now what does that mean? Now, once you be able to hit helping 1,000 people get their first home, this is going to help you accomplish that mission, accomplish that goal. But then I said some others want to be the authority, right? We've heard the term thought leader. We've heard the term expert. We've heard the term guru. These are people who are deemed as the person that they want to go to for information. Okay. And if we understand that, what does that mean? That means that they're going to be the first person that we always approach. If I'm looking to buy a house and I know somebody who's a realtor, then I'm always going to go to the realtor first, right? I'm not going to ask all these other people around. I'm going to go to the realtor first. And the reason why I'm going to go to the realtor first is because this person is the expert. This person I know I can trust. This person I know I can depend on. So seeing, knowing, and understanding all of that now sets us up to where they are the authority. So you would be the authority in your respective area, in your respective focus for your respective industry, right? Y'all got me so far? And then the last one I said, you want to do this thing because you want to make money. You want to get paid. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to get paid. There's nothing wrong with having that desire. That's healthy, right? That's healthy. So the thing that we want to know and understand is what's the plan we can begin to build around this so that we can get paid starting out and then not have to wait to get paid later. All right. Then I said, who is your show for? We must know who our show's for. If we don't know who it's for, then we won't be able to help them. And you identify who's your show's for by being able to determine who needs to hear the message most. What's the problem that your podcast will solve? Where do these people hang out? Right? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on YouTube? Where are these people? Okay. And the sooner we figure out where these people are, then we get to go to our skill set and say, what skills do I have that can help people overcome X, Y, Z? All right. Then we did the recap on that. Get your purpose. Okay, good. And then you were supposed to name and describe your dream listener, right? You're supposed to come up with who's that person, what's the struggle they're facing, and what do they desire. And as you begin to get clear on that, then it'll make more sense for you moving forward. Then we talked about naming the podcast, talked about coming up with keywords, talking about making it SEO friendly, talking about using terminology that lines up with that target audience. Then I showed y'all yesterday how many different podcasts name their title, Let's Talk. So I talked about being very intentional on the title of your podcast, and you want to be very intentional. Why? Because we want people to be able to find it so we can add value to them, so we can help them go to the next level in their life, in their business, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Talked about cover art. Cover art, you need to have a cover art. The cover art ultimately is the billboard for your podcast, okay? And you want to represent your brand on your billboard the best you possibly can. If you agree with me, give me an amen in the chat. And I said, you got to make it these dimensions, either 1,400 by 1,400 or 3,000 by 3,000. Say you can do it on Canva, Snapper, 99 Design, Fiverr, Designer. This was an example of my cover art. This is some of the other cover arts of the shows that I have created, I have produced. These are some of the clients that I've worked with. And these then was just talking about doing your research to determine how you want to name your show. Okay. What inspirations do you have? What inspirations can you leverage? Okay. And then I said, you want to create a clever name for your show. Clever name for your show. Why do I need a clever name for my show, John? Because you want people to actually find it. But you don't want to make it too clever to where it doesn't make sense and it goes over people's heads. Okay? Y'all still with me? And then I said, this is how you create a name. Okay? Is it clear? Is it simple? Is it taken? If when people hear it, they understand it, great. You're ready to go. You're ready to go. Talked about that right there. Talked about the dimensions already. Talked about the top 50 podcasts on Apple's podcast charts. This is why they stand out, because they're bright, because the titles are bold. And this is a good model for how we might want to get inspiration for our cover art. Okay. Then, like I said, you can go right there, 99 Designs, where they compete for your business. And then I said it was your turn to create the cover art. So really quick, I want to check in. I want to check in with my people. I want to check in. How we feeling? How we feeling? Did we do the homework? Talk to me in the comments. Did we do the homework? I want to see who did the homework. Talk to me. Who did the homework? Hey, Pauline, what's going on? Hey, hold it down. Hey, high school, man. Yeah, I remember, Pauline. Man, hold it down. Okay, cool. If you're ready for us to get into the content for tonight, give me an oh yeah in the chat. If you're ready for us to get into tonight's content, because yesterday we talked about how to put the show together and everything like that. Tonight we're going to talk about how you can launch it, how you can come up with a system to create the content, and ultimately how you can make some money. So if you're ready, go ahead, let me know down in the chat to find out how you can launch your show, how you can prepare the content to where people will want to buy from you. Okay. If you're ready, just let me know down in the chat. Okay. If you're ready, let me know down in the chat. And be sure, if you have not subscribed to the channel, you want to make sure that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and then let me know in the chat when you did so I can give you a shout out. All right. So here we go. Day two. Let me go ahead and share this. Boom. Okay. So this is the traditional flow for a podcast. This traditional flow. You record the episode, you upload it to a host site, and then they distribute to all the podcast providers. Okay, so you go on Amazon, you get a mic, or you just record from the phone. You upload it to a host site, which could be Red Circle, Anchor, it could be Blueberry, it can be Captivate, it can be PodPal. There's a ton of them. You just want to do your research so you know which one works best for you. And then they're going to send it out to your Apple, to your Spotify, to those different platforms. Okay, to those different platforms. All right. So now somebody might be asking, but John, how do I figure out my podcast niche? Right? How do I know that I'm in the right niche? Is that anybody's question right now? You're like, how do I figure out my specific niche? Anybody feel like that right now? You're like, John, I know I'm gonna create the podcast, but I need to get clear on the niche first. Is that anybody? Is that anybody out there? Hey, Class C, what's going on? What's going on? Right? Is that anybody trying to figure out how do I identify my podcast niche? Okay. Good. Okay, well, let's get into it then. Let's get into it. All right, so first and foremost, what you're going to want to do to find your podcast niche, you're going to want to make sure you identify what's an area of your own expertise, right? What is an area of your own expertise? And when you identify what your area of your expertise is, then the next thing you're going to want to do is make sure you actually enjoy talking about it, okay? Make sure you enjoy talking about it. Because if you don't enjoy talking about it, then you're not going to want to do a podcast on it at all, okay? So we make sure that this is an area of our expertise. We make sure that you will enjoy talking about it. And then lastly, you identify what is a problem that you are going to solve, okay? What is a problem that you're going to solve? Comment in the chat right now. What's a problem you're going to solve? Right? What is a problem that you're going to solve? I want y'all to write that in the chat just so that some of us actually know. Some of us actually know what it is that you do. What it is that you do, what it is that you do well, who it is that you serve, right? Write that in the chat. Write that in the chat. So people actually know. Like, we need to know what you do. If we don't know what you do, how can we refer you business? Right? Classy said, I do. I feel like I'm all, I hope are you saying all in the place or all over the place, Classy? Which one we talking about? Okay, now look, I'm going to go a little bit more into detail. I'm going to make sure we're on the same page, everybody. I'm going to go a little bit more into detail. For instance, this podcast here, how I built this, all they talk about is business owners, entrepreneurs, and how they built their business. That's all they talk about on how I built this. How they built their business. That's it. That's all they talk about. Then my podcast, your podcast mentor show, all I talk about is podcasting. I talk about how to start a podcast, talk about how to launch a podcast, talk about how to monetize a podcast. That's all I talk about on your podcast mentor show. That's it. And y'all, that's all we have to do is just drill down. You want to go an inch forward and a mile deep. John, what does that mean? That means be excellent at what you do in the industry of which you do it. For instance, Whopper. The Whopper, okay? Burger King is known for the Whopper. John, tell me about that. Why is Burger King known for the Whopper? Here's the reason why. They created the Whopper in 1957. Burger King has been making Whoppers since 1957, but the contents within it are getting shifted around. Y'all with me? So what you want to figure out is what's the one thing? What is the one thing that you can do such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary. Shout out to Gary Keller, the author of The One Thing, right? That by you doing this one thing, everything will be easier or unnecessary. Okay? That's it right there. That's it, y'all. That's it. And then look, these are the top podcasting genres that exist right here. Okay? Top podcasting genres. They are what? Comedy, news, politics, society and culture, personal journals. Why am I sharing these with you? I want you to identify where you fit in all this. Where do you fit in? Where do you fit in? Right? Where do you fit in? And the reason why I wanted to show you this is to know that these are the different areas that you have to choose from, right? These are all the different areas you have to choose from. You can do marketing, you can do science, you can do medicine, you can do investing, and you can be a coach or you can be a consultant in these arenas. But we must know and understand that if we do not choose a genre and drill down, then we'll never be successful. You can't be all over the place. We need to pick one and we need to rock with it for a little bit. Okay? If y'all with me, let me know in the chat. If you with me, let me know in the chat. Just say, John, I'm with you. John, I get it. Let me know in the chat. Say, I get it. I get it. I get it. Okay. So look, now we're going to get into what you need to have a successful podcast launch. Are y'all ready for this? Are y'all excited about this? You should be excited for this is for what you need to have a successful podcast launch. Y'all, the majority of people get this wrong. And that's why the majority of people end up quitting by doing 3 episodes, 7 episodes, 10 episodes. They quit early. And they quit early because why? Because they didn't start out with a plan. You need a plan, you need a plan, you need a plan. Before I get into it, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit this subscribe button. Because y'all, I'm going to start going live more often, okay? At least once a week. And I'm going to start giving y'all some more quality content, okay? So hit that subscribe button. And after you did it, just say, I did in the chat. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so what does launching look like? This is what launching looks like. It looks like, number one, putting yourself out there. I know. We're in a culture now to where people frown upon confidence. People frown upon you believing in yourself. People frown upon, I see you, Class C. I appreciate it. People frown upon you being comfortable in the skin that you're in. People frown upon that, right? But that's why we have to put ourselves out. Because if we put ourselves out there, then we're going to be showing up different places talking about our podcast. And we're going to be comfortable the more we do it. Okay? So the more we do it, the more comfortable we will become. And the more comfortable we will become, this allows us to remind our potential audience of the value that we bring. And what value is that? That's in the area of your experience. That's in the area of your expertise. That's in where you can pour into other people because you might have 10 years in HR. You might have 10 years in videography, right? And if you have this experience, then you can help the average person who might have 10 days experience, okay? So then we want to, watching the numbers, look, I know how it goes. When you launch, when you put it out there, you go back and forth, refreshing. Let me see the numbers. Let me see how many listens we have. Let me see how far we've gone. Let's see. I would encourage you just to wait till the end of the week to look at the numbers, okay? Wait till the end of the week to look at the numbers. Here's why. You don't want to be disheartened because you're going to have an idea for how many people you feel should have listened. And I promise you, whatever that amount isn't going to line up with reality, at least not at first, okay? Not at first. That's not the way it works. Not at first, okay? That's not the way it works. Let me get myself together up here, okay? Yeah, not at first, unfortunately, okay? So just be cautious of that. Be cautious. And then what you want to do, you want to water what works. So as you launch, you put your show out there, and as you're telling people about your show, and what you do, how you help people, and you see certain stuff works, you're going to want to continue to do exactly that thing that works. All right. Continue to do that thing that works. If it was you taking people's phone and subscribing to your podcast on their phone, continue to do that. I have a client, Dr. Miriam Smith. She came out to Dallas for a podcast conference, and Dr. Smith, she would start conversations with people. And then after that, she would tell them about her podcast, and she would say, let me see your phone. I'll subscribe to it for you. And then she subscribed. And then before we left the conference, she ended up getting like 200 subscribers, like 300 subscribers, all because she was putting herself out there. And she's an introvert by nature, but she was putting herself out there and she was watering her works. And then also, you're going to want to continue to share your show. Somebody in the chat, right? Continue, share. You're going to want to continue to share your show after launch week is up. Here's why. You want to make sure that people don't forget about your show. They need to know. Okay. Then we have to assess. Okay. We have to assess, what are our podcast goals? Is it we want to make some dollars from our show? Is it we want to have 50 subscribers in the first week? Right? Is it the fact that we want to make sure that people know who we are in this respective industry? We want to get some things clear, okay? And we want to get those things clear to put them on paper. The Bible says, write the vision and make it plain so that those who get the tablets, those who get the vision, they can run with it, right? I recently have hired a producer for my podcast, for our network, right? And I also have hired a videographer on the team. If I didn't take time to get clear on what my vision was for my podcast, then they wouldn't be able to take the vision that I gave them and do something with it. Okay. So we got to get clear on our podcast goals. How many listens do we want? How many subscribers do we want? How many episodes do we want to record? These are all essential things. What's going on, Dad? Dr. Fred Jones. These are things that are essential when it comes to making certain that we have this in place to have success for our goals. Here's what launching looks like. Y'all, if you have a pen, if you have a paper, if you need to screenshot this, screenshot it. But all I do is ask that you just tag me on Instagram. Just tag me on Instagram at Jonathan Jones Speaks. My name's right there down at the bottom. But I ask you, if you screenshot it, just tag me. But look, this is what launching looks like. You want to ask for ratings and reviews. In a perfect world, we would love to sit back, set it, and forget it. Release the podcast and just kick our feet back and put our hands behind our head and just relax and sip Bahama Mamas and margaritas and grape juice and everything like that. But that's not how it works in business, okay? You need to put your show out there, and then after you put it out there, you need to go and headhunt for people that you know will be likely to give you ratings and reviews on your platform. If we're clear, say clear in the chat. Okay. Launching looks like you making sure that when you tell the people your podcast is going live on Thursday, September 5th, that it goes live on Thursday, September 5th. Because the only thing worse than telling somebody that an event is going to happen at this time on this day, and then the event does not happen on this time or this day, the initial momentum that you built up will fall to the side. Why is it going to fall to the side? It's going to fall to the side all because the initial momentum you had is not going to be easily replicated. Okay? There's a first time. You get the first time to have all that momentum, so utilize it wisely. Then you want to publish binge-worthy content. I got to talk to you directly real quick. You have to publish binge-worthy content. If y'all are feeling me, let me know in the chat. If you're feeling me, let me know in the chat. What does it mean to publish binge-worthy content? Binge-worthy content means that you're putting out content that people have to see, have to digest, and they rush to get to it. Binge-worthy content looks like, oh my goodness, it's 7:00. John is doing this podcast challenge. I have to be there. Binge-worthy content is people set a reminder so that they do not miss what you're releasing. Binge-worthy content. We need to put out binge-worthy content. Binge-worthy content is how you get people to wait. And they're getting that FOMO. They're like, no, I have to be in the live. I got to be in the room. If I'm not in the room, I feel like I missed out. You want people to feel like they missed out. Binge-worthy content. Somebody type binge-worthy content in the chat. Binge-worthy content in the chat. Okay, so look, in addition to the binge-worthy content, you have to have a plan. Like I said before, the way that you will falter in the biggest podcasting mistakes is saying, I'm going to launch on September 5th. And then I ask you, well, have you recorded any episodes? You say no. And then I ask you, have you got with a coach or somebody else who has experience to walk you through the process? And you say no. But you say, I got ChatGPT. You say, I got YouTube. No, sweetheart. No. That's not going to work. Okay, that's not how we have a successful launch. Okay, that's the fastest way that we don't have a launch. Okay, so let's just be clear. Let's be clear there. Okay, so somebody in the chat put, I need a plan. I need a plan. I need a plan. Okay, the next question you might be asking is, John, wait, before I even get there, before I get to choosing a launch date, I want to give y'all this. I want to give y'all this before I go into choosing a launch date. This one I want to talk about really quick. Somebody out there is asking, John, how do I create binge-worthy content? John, how do I create content to where I know people are going to want to hear what I have to say? And then ultimately to make sure that my show has a flow, right? To make sure that what I'm saying is going to resonate on ears that need to hear. Well, you're in the right place. I'm glad you asked. Okay, I'm glad you asked. So this is what it looks like. Okay, you're gonna want to create your 3 podcast pillars. All right, John, what are my podcast pillars? Okay, the best example I can give you is the nightly news. Feel free to help me out in the chat. The night live. Are we back live? Okay, we're still here. Okay, the first thing you're going to get is you're going to get a top story, okay? The second thing you're going to get, watch the nightly news, is you are going to get sports, okay? Second thing you're going to get sports is guaranteed. They're going to give you a top story. They're going to give you sports. And then the third thing they're going to give you the weather. Okay, these are 3 things that you can count on for the news all the time, every time, anytime. Okay, you're going to get the news. So, John, how do I come up with my content pillars? This is how. Okay, you're going to want to come up with 3 different areas or 3 different focuses for your podcast content. And based on these 3 focuses, if the content doesn't align in the first focus, second focus, or third, this is something that you should not be talking about on your podcast. This is something that you should be talking about on the phone with your friend or at church or at school or somewhere like that. Okay. So, prime example, I'll go deeper. For me, for my podcast, your podcast mentor show, what did I talk about? I talked about podcast news. I talked about how-tos, and I talked about interviews. These are 3 areas that I focused on talking about on my podcast. And here's the kicker. This is the blessing. You don't have to talk about all 3 every single episode. Just come in, hit on one, give your perspective, give your thought, give your feedback, and get out of there. No harm, no foul. If we got and understand binge-worthy content, just comment, just hit me with some flames in the chat. If you understand what binge-worthy content is, I just broke it down. Hit me with some flames in the chat, okay? Hit me with some flames. Hit me with some flames. Hit me with some flames. I want some flames in the chat so I know that this is resonating, okay? Just want to make sure that this is resonating, okay? All right. Now I'm about to hit these common mistakes, and then I'll open it up in just a moment to see if we have some questions. I'm gonna do a little Q&A tonight. Okay, so here's what we'll do. And then just like I told y'all last night, I said if you come tonight, I said I got a special offer for you. So look, how do I choose a launch date? You pick a date that you can stick with. You pick a date that's just far enough to where you have enough time to prepare to get a couple of episodes recorded at least, and then roll them out, okay? That's how you pick a launch date. It's that simple. I don't want you to overthink it. I just want you to pick a date and stick with it. Just like when people get married, they pick a date for their wedding, and then they stick to it, okay? So just be like that. Be like that. Coach Loretta speaks. Coach Loretta speaks on the live stream. All right. So now I want to get into some podcasting pitfalls. These are don'ts. These are the don'ts that you do not want to do. Okay. Make sure you do not do these things, because these are things that will ultimately set you up for failure. Okay. So don't do these things. We're going to talk about common starting mistakes, common recording mistakes, and common launch mistakes. Number one, keep the main thing, right? When you pick the date for your podcast, don't try to start doing extra things, try to join extra programs. Don't do that. Focus on the podcast. Make the podcast the priority and stick with it, okay? Second, starting mistake. You don't know your people. You have to know your people. Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? Just like Black parents, who are you talking to? If you don't know who you're talking to, then you're not talking to anyone. Let's just be clear, okay? If you're talking to everyone, you're definitely not talking to anyone, okay? And then number three, not intentionally planning your content. We gotta plan the content, and we gotta do it with intention. If we're not doing it with intention, then the podcast isn't going to do what we desire for it to do. I have clients that have made upwards of $30,000 from their podcast. I have other clients that made their first $1,000 from their podcast. I have other clients that have started coaching programs, that started doing other businesses all around their podcast. Why? Because they got clear on their content, and they got clear on their purpose of their podcast, what they wanted to do. If you don't tell your podcast what you want it to do, then it won't do it. Common recording mistakes. Sound check 1, 2, 3. Make sure that your microphone, if you're using one, is connected to whatever device you're using it on. If it be a laptop, if it be a computer, if it be your phone, connect it and make sure that you use it, okay? Number two, are you too close to the microphone? Are you too far from the microphone? You want to make sure that you're at the right distance, okay? And you want to get the right distance because you want to have the best quality sound possible. And you can't get that if you're too close or if you're too far. All right, so be right where you need to be to get a good sound. And then lastly, where's your tank? Okay? Where's your tank? Do you have the energy to put out an episode? Or maybe you have low energy and you're tired and you're exhausted and you don't need to record an episode today. Identify where you are, and that should help you determine if you should put out an episode that day or maybe you should take a day off, okay? If you're still rocking with me, let me know in the chat, okay? Then launching mistakes. Launching mistakes. Do you have a launching plan? Do you have a launching plan? If we don't have a launching plan, then we can't expect to have a successful launch. Okay? Movies. When you come out the movies, you see all these posters. At the bottom of the poster, you see dates and you see exactly when the movie is going to release. Then they have previews that you'll see. And the reason why they have this is because that's their launch date. Leading up to the launch date, they're going to give you all kind of promotion. They're going to give you all type of social media posts. You're going to see these people do podcast interviews, right? Because this is part of the launch plan to build awareness, to build traction, to build focus on the brand. So we got to have a launch plan. And you don't want to release your show to where nobody knows about it. This is why you want to put together a launch team, okay? You want to have a group of people who you tell them what to do, right? They're really your army. They're your podcast army. Somebody comment in the chat, I need an army. I need an army. Same rules apply, same rules apply, same rules apply. Okay. And then lastly, not preparing for after the launch. We must prepare for after the launch. What does that look like? That looks like having a way to where you can offer a product to your clients, having a way to where people can purchase from you, having a way to where people can work with you. That is truly essential in your podcast journey. All right. If we don't have this in place, then we can't expect people to buy anything from us. If we don't have this in place, we can't expect people to work with us. So we need to not only have a plan, but we also need to be in a position to where we're looking and ready to work with people. Okay. All right. Now I want to just take a quick pause and I want to see what stood out most to you tonight. Comment what stood out most to you tonight. Do we have to use Stripe? Do you have to use Stripe for what? Do you have to use Stripe for what? Talk to me. Talk to me. Have to use Stripe for what? For what? For what? For what? For what? Just want to be clear on what we are talking about. You don't have to use Stripe. There's a lot of payment processors out there. You certainly do not have to use Stripe. But you could. But you don't have to use Stripe. Okay. Yeah. You don't have to use Stripe. Okay, binge-worthy content. Yeah. I like it. All right. So everybody who rock with me, everybody who's been rocking the past couple of nights, now I want you to I want to ask you, right? I want to ask you, would you like for me to help you start your podcast? Would you like for me to help you start your podcast? If you would like for me to help you start your podcast, let me know down in the chat. If you would like me to help you start your podcast, let me know in the chat. Because over the past 2 days, we talked about a lot of content and I wanted to even dig deeper. But unfortunately, we didn't even have the time to dig as deep as I would have liked to. However, if you would like me to help you start your podcast, then talk to me in the chat. Okay, we got a couple of yeses. Okay. So, have I earned the right to be able to share this offer that I have with you? Have I earned the right to be able to share the offer that I have with you all tonight? Based on the value that I've added, have I earned the right to be able to share this offer I have with you all tonight? If you feel yes, just go ahead and just drop a yes in the chat. If you like, John, yeah, you did your thing. You added value tonight. You added value yesterday. I feel you've earned the right, to be able to share what your offer is, what you have for me. Okay. 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 So let's go ahead and yeah, let's get into it then. Let's get into it. So some of you are at the spot now to where you're in the spot to where you're frustrated because you feel as if you're alone in this podcast journey, right? You feel that one, either by you starting your podcast on your own, you feel that you won't have success because you feel like you don't have all the tools and everything like that. So this is what I'm gonna do tonight. This is what I'm gonna do tonight. Let me go ahead and reshare my screen. Let's get this up. Because the fact of the matter is, podcasting can be a tough journey, right? It can be a tough journey, and I want to just share with you all this right here. Okay, and here we are. Okay, so why are you here, right? Why are you here? You're here because you want to wake up fulfilled and passionate about your work and the income to support it. If you agree with that, say amen in the chat, right? You're here to live a life and own a company where you can work anywhere in the world and have full control of your workload and income, right? If that's you, say amen. You're here because you want to live a life of options and make decisions based off your desires and not your limitations. Anybody want to live in the overflow? Hey, in their desires, in the options. Come on, somebody, right? You're here because you want to experience a better version of life. And you're wondering, how in the world can I do that without a significant impact to your current income? You actually can see it as a reality in the future. I want y'all to close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes for me for 10 seconds. Close your eyes for 10 seconds. Close your eyes. Right. And I want you to imagine, seeing yourself just having the opportunity to talk to over 1,000 people just in a crowd. The crowd is roaring and everybody is trying to talk. Thank you. Classy, thank you for sharing your story. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Dr. Fred, for taking the time. Thank you, Pauline, for taking the time to share your story with me. Because you shared your story, now I have the opportunity to move forward. Because you shared your story, I have the opportunity to be able to live in the overflow. Open your eyes. I want you to think about those people who are crying in front of you. Those people who are saying, thank you for taking the time to be real. Thank you for taking the time to share your story. Thank you for taking the time to connect with me. Do you see it? Do you see it? Let me know in the chat if you see that. You see people thanking you. You see people just grateful for you, taking the time to share your story. Right? Do you see it in the future? Because the fact of the matter is there's never a right time. As much as we want to wait for the right time, as much as we want people as much as we want time to stand still for us, y'all, it's never about the right time. It's always about making a decision, okay? And here's the truth. I got to come clean. I want to let y'all know, right? I don't have any special advantages or any special skills or any secret tools that you also can have access to, right? I don't even have any expensive resources. I just have a system and a process that can work. And y'all, if I can do this, so can you, right? So y'all, give me a drum roll in the chat. Because y'all, I want to introduce something that I've taken years to create and change and edit and do this and do that. But y'all, give me a drum roll in the chat. Because I want to introduce to you, okay? I want to introduce to you The Get Paid with Podcasting Bootcamp. Oh, let's go. Let's go. John, what is the Get Paid with Podcasting Bootcamp? Let me show you. So look, the Get Paid with Podcasting Bootcamp is a community to where you have a digestible start, okay? To where you get the opportunity to where you can ask specific questions and you're trying to figure out, well, John, what is the solution for that? How do I get that? How do I get there? I'm going to show you. Look, the first thing that it includes is the essentials of podcast training. In our 2 days, I tried to get through all I could get through, but y'all, in this training, I help you get clear, crystal clear on identifying your target listener. And then I help you map out your show strategy to where it can be streamlined and to where it allows you to capture listeners to create cash flow strategy and more. Total value of $497. And then I'm also going to throw in the perfect podcast launch. I talked about in the training tonight, putting together a launch team. But y'all, this is going to be a full breakdown, all 6 videos, walking you through step by step the perfect podcast launch to get your podcast live on Apple, on Audible, on iHeart, and all the other streaming platforms, along with the pairing information. So if you desire to read it from a PDF, we got the PDF available for you. If you want to watch the videos, you can watch the videos, but all of that is in the program. Do you hear me? That's total value right there of $997, right? And then this is what previous clients have paid. Look, I have one of my previous clients. He's paid even more than that just to work with me, okay? And then, so this is what you're going to get so far, right? You're going to get the perfect podcast launch and foundational followers training and the essential podcast training. Total value of $1494 thus far. But then you might be in the spot where you're saying, well, John, what if I don't know what to say to my audience to get their attention? What's the solution for that? Well, that's why we got my done for you plug and play podcast scripts. What's that? It's fully written up templates, including podcast show notes, descriptions, and social media breakdowns for promotional examples. You're going to launch your podcast, but what language are you using to launch your podcast? We go through that. I have it broken down for you already in written up scripts. That's total value of $597. If you like the way that sounds, let me know in the chat. And then I got my done for you podcast cover art. Look, I'm giving you the actual attention grabbing cover art templates to choose from. And you're getting the 3 essential elements of quality cover art and social media countdown graphics. So if you're not a graphic designer, you don't have to go in and you don't have to go and try to create this and manipulate it yourself. Why? Because they're already in place. All you have to do is change the image, change the title, change the color. You'll be ready to rock and ready to roll. Total value of $297 right there. And then, look, y'all, I'm giving you those templates. Why? Because I almost paid $300 just for one cover art. Just for one. And I'm giving you over 20. So here's what you're going to get. The perfect podcast launch and foundational followers training, essentials of podcast training, my done for you plug and play podcast scripts, my done for you podcast cover art, total value so far of $2,388. If you like the sound of this so far, let me know in the chat. And then you say, John, I'm not a graphic designer, but I want to promote my brand. What's the solution for this? Well, we got my done for you graphic templates. So all you have to do is switch out the pictures and the color. And this is social invites. This is an ebook template, a workbook template, and a few other templates. Why am I doing that? Because you can put in the information you already know, and then you can already put it up to sale. And then it's going to be total profit because it's a digital file. It's total value of $497 just right there. And then look, we got the podcast launch email templates. This is the perfect podcast launch email templates. I'm giving you the exact email scripts of what to say to the team to get them excited about sharing your mission and helping you promote your podcast. Total value of $397 just right there. But y'all, people want to help, but people can't help you if they don't know what you need from them. And that's what we break down in these email templates. So far, you're going to get the Perfect Podcast Launch and Foundational Followers training. Gonna get my Essentials of Podcast training, my Done For You Plug and Play podcast scripts, my Done For You podcast cover art, my Done For You graphic templates, and the podcast launch email templates. Total value of $3,282. How we feeling? How we feeling? Somebody is saying, John, how do I have a professionally sounding podcast to market on all the platforms? I don't know how to do that. Well, I'm glad that you asked. Because look, I'm giving you podcast marketing made easy. And this is providing for you. All you have to do is put in a little of the frameworks and the worksheets, and you'll be ready to promote with live video, short form, and carousel on any social platform that you desire. Total value of $297. Then we got the podcast quick start equipment set up for any budget. Total value of $197. I'm breaking down and giving you the exact tools that I use, as well as the ones you can go from starting out with your podcast all the way up to you're at the point to where now you're not just starting out, but now you're ready to take this show on the road. And I want to provide that for you, okay? So that's why I've put that in this training. Without breaking the bank, y'all, I've spent over $5,000 on podcast equipment to end up selling half of it back. So I don't want you to have to go through the same thing I went through, making some of the same mistakes that I made. So that's why I have this in this training right here, okay? So far, what you're going to get, you're going to get Perfect Podcast Launch and Foundational Followers training, Essentials of Podcast training, my Done For You Plug and Play podcast scripts. You're also going to get my Done For You podcast cover art, Done For You graphic templates, the podcast launch email templates, the podcast marketing made easy. You're also going to get the podcast quick start equipment set up for any budget. Total value of $3,776. Okay? So now, I need you to talk to me in the chat. How many of you would like me to hold your hand through this process? And now isn't the time to get shy. Talk to me in the chat. How many of you would like me to hold your hand through this process? Right? Hold your hand, walking you through, talking with you, coaching you through personalized coaching for your personalized need. Let me know in the chat if you would like me to walk you through this journey. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, I know you would. I know you would. I know you don't want to do this podcast alone. Hold my hand. So look, this is the part. Y'all. So look, this is the part. So I worked with the University of Texas at Austin. They paid me over $7,500 for 6 calls to work with them on their podcast. Can you believe that? 6 calls to work with them on their podcast. 6 calls. Hello, somebody, okay? 6 calls. Hello. However, I am going to you would get access to 6 live calls to where I'm going to coach you, talk to you, and walk you through the process. Total value of $7,500. But let's go further. And then you're going to get access to a private community to where you will get to hear strategies that have worked for other people. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You get to engage with these other community members, and also you'll be able to ask questions anytime. Why? Because I want you to be able to never be stuck. I had one member of my community. When my son was 1 year old, he was crying in the middle of the night. I get up and need to feed him, give him a bottle, all that good stuff. And then I saw one of my members drop a comment in there at 2:00 in the morning. I was like, man, why is this dude up? But then I answered his question. Because that's the type of culture that I'm creating. And then if I can't get to you quick enough, then you have other members who also can get to you. The value of this is priceless, right? Because the worst thing that can happen tonight is the fact that you would get a high level training like this and then go back to surrounding yourself with people who aren't thinking on the level you're thinking, They're not trying to do what you're trying to do. So it's dangerous. All right. And look, this is how much clients have paid me for that community access. $19.97. So here's what you're going to get. The Perfect Podcast launching foundational followers training, essentials of podcast training, my done for you plug and play podcast scripts, the done for you podcast cover art, the done for you graphic templates, the Perfect Podcast launch email templates, podcast marketing made easy, and podcast quick start equipment setup for any budget. Total value $3,776. But then the question becomes, what else do you need? What else? What else do you need? And this is what I was talking about right here, the live accountability calls, where I'm answering your questions live, interactive trainings for you. The focus is always answering my community's questions before I go into the training that I want to do. And why do we do that? Well, it's simple. Because the community is always my first focus. And then I'm going to throw in a bonus. I'm going to give you the steps required to you booking your first TEDx training. I've done 2 TEDx talks, and I want to give you the secrets to get on the red circle. Because as your podcast begins to pick up steam and as you begin to get more exposure, then you're going to be in the spot to where people want you to speak on stages. And you need to be comfortable. That's why I'm giving you this training. Total value of $997. Then we're throwing in a how to start your book bundle, right? Complete step-by-step walkthrough of how to publish your book on Amazon, along with the paired PDF on-demand video showing you exactly what you need to create a book, publish it, and then launch it. I paid my dad $5,000 for this strategy, for this process. And then after he joined the community, I said, Dad, I want to help people out. I want to show them how to write books. This is the same strategy I used to put out these 2 best-selling books. Same framework. That's in this training also. That's a bonus. And you want to be able to put your book out, because when you put out a book, when you go speak, you'll get paid. This is $2,000. This right here is another $1,000, and I just got paid another $1,000 just for books. That's not even me speaking. But since we're talking about speaking, I'm going to throw in the Fast Track Expert Speaker Program, where you're going to get a proposal template, a quote template, a contract template, and I'll break down the storytelling framework for you so you know exactly what it takes to get paid as a speaker. And this is the same template, same contract that I used to get paid this $2,000 for a virtual engagement. Same contract I used to get paid this $2,000 for another virtual engagement. Same contract that I used to get paid this $4,000 for another virtual engagement. I'm not even talking about in person. These are all virtual. I spoke from the house, did the engagement, got my check, went downstairs and ate lunch with my wife. Hello, somebody. Then this is the same contract that I used to get this $5,000 engagement. If y'all are tallying it up, we're almost at about $20,000. Hello. Can anybody here do anything with $20,000? Anybody? Right? And then what we also have is these checks. This is one for $7,775. I went down there one time. One time. They paid me almost $8,000 to open my mouth and to speak. And then we got $4,500 right here. Down at the bottom, $4,500. So now the question becomes, yeah, we're talking about podcasting. And then I want to also just give y'all this bonus. 10 streams of podcast income, where I'm showing you how to close your first client. I'm giving you creating your first course. I'm showing you how to get paid as an affiliate. I'm showing you podcast Patreon strategy, how to create your podcast merchandise, how to license your podcast content, and more. Total value of $997. Come on. This is a no-brainer right here, people. So now I want to ask you this. This is everything that comes in this boot camp. You get the perfect podcast, launch and foundational follower training, essentials of podcast training, my done for you plug and play podcast scripts, done for you podcast cover art, done for you graphic templates, the podcast launch email templates, podcast marketing made easy, podcast equipment startup, quick start equipment startup for any budget. You get access to the 6 weekly accountability calls. You get private community access. You get 10 streams of podcast income. You get the fast track speaker program to help you learn to get paid as a speaker if you've never been paid before. You get the complete your book training, and you get the book your first TEDx training. Total value right here is $17,767. If I was to ask you, because what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to charge you $17,000. I'm not. I know that the value of this is over $17,000. But question, if I was to say I would give you over $17,000 worth of value for $997, just talk to me in the chat. Would that be fair? Would that be a fair trade? Would that be a fair trade? If I gave you over $17,000 worth of value for $997, would that be a fair trade? Talk to me in the chat. Okay. I know it would. I'm not even gonna do $997. What if I cut that in half? What if I said I'll give you over $17,000 worth of value? You get access to this program for 6 weeks. What if I said this is what we're gonna do? We're not gonna do $997. But what if I said let's do $797? $797 for over $17,000 worth of value. Would that be fair? Let me know in the chat. Okay. Yeah. Okay. How about this? This is what we're going to do. So tonight, by you all being on this training here tonight, right? Well, before I get there, let me just ask you in the chat, what price would the boot camp need to be for you to say I'm in right now? Drop that price in the chat. What price would the boot camp need to be for you to say, John, I'm in right now? Drop that price in the chat. What price does it need to be for you to say, John, I'm in? What price does it need to be? Let me know in the chat. What price does that thing need to be for you to say, I'm in? Okay. This is what I'll do. By you being here tonight, and by y'all locking in, by y'all rocking with me for this training tonight, I'll do 2 things. 1, I will give you access to everything here tonight. Over $17,000 worth of value for one pay of $497. For the first 3 people that take advantage. One pay of $497, you'll get access to everything that I just listed off. Where my people at? If you're in, just comment I'm in the chat. If you're in, comment I'm in, so I know. And then I even sweeten the deal. Right? Because the first person that signs up, I'll double down. I won't just give you 6 weeks access. I'll give you 12 weeks access to the first person that joins on the one pay. I won't just give you 6 weeks. I'll give you 12 weeks access. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what we'll do. And then, let me do this for you. We also have a payment plan option. And what I'll do is we'll let you get started for $150 a month for 3 months. And you'll get 3 months access. The content will just slow drip over the 3 months. Now, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. Okay? You can't beat that. All right, so I'll drop this link. And 3 pay. All right. What questions do we have? Questions, comments, concerns. What questions do we have? All right. I see some of us saying we in. But like I said, that offer applies for the first person who joins on the one pay for $4.97. The first person who joins on the one pay, they're gonna get not just 6 weeks access, they're gonna get instant access. 12 weeks to everything. Okay? 12 weeks. But what questions do we have? One more time, just so everybody know what you get access to. You're going to get access to the Perfect Podcast Launching Foundational Followers Training, the Essentials of Podcast Training, my Done For You Plug and Play podcast scripts, the Done For You podcast cover art, Done For You graphic templates, the podcast launch email templates, podcast marketing made easy, podcast quick start equipment setup for any budget. You get access to the 6 weekly accountability calls, the private community access, 10 streams of podcast income, fast track speaker program, the Complete Your Book program, book your first TEDx training. All of that is a total value of $17,767. Woo! But like I said, you get access tonight for one pay of $4.97, or you can do 3 months of $150. Either way, you will get instant access tonight. If you have questions, come on, ask your question. If we don't have no questions, this is what I'm going to do for y'all right here. If we don't have no questions, this is what I'm going to just get ready to close it out right here at the end of this presentation. This is what we're going to do. All right. Here's a few things that I know. Y'all, here's a few things that I know. And that is 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 3. Yeah, Class C, it's good tonight. Once the training is over, then this deal is gonna expire. Okay, so 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 3. And only about 10% of people who try to start on their own actually succeed. And almost 60 podcasters report building an audience as a top challenge. So here's the deal. I had 2 choices. The first option is I could have went cheap And I could have only provided you with templates and only gave you recorded videos and not offered the interactive mentorship. But that would not help you navigate over your personal hurdles, right? So the second option requires a little bit more of an investment, but I can devote more to your resource. I can devote more resources to help guarantee your success. What I know for sure is saving money won't make you financially free. And you don't have a debt problem, you have an income problem. And your job controls your salary, but you control your income. Okay. And this boot camp is for those that know that this is the breakthrough that they need. It's all about creating your life and not reacting to it. And about you getting to decide where to take your family and your children and not letting the money decide for you. Y'all, last year at this time, I was a teacher. And as my wife was getting ready to have our son, I told my principal, I said, hey, do I get to take some time off for paternity leave just to make sure I can help my wife set up the house and make sure that, we'll be good after the fact of when he comes? And they was like, John, you don't get no time to take off. And I was like, really? He said, yeah, you can take it, but we're going to have to dock your pay. And I said, that's no fun. He said, yeah, that's just the way it works. And I had to get to the point to where I couldn't allow their policies to determine my life, my time off, my time away from work. So ultimately, I'm not there anymore, right? I don't work at that institution anymore. So the fact of the matter is there's two paths ahead of you. There's the path of what you've already been doing, trying to navigate this podcast thing, trying to YouTube it, trying to chat GPT it up, but still, we're in the same spot. However, there's the path to proven success, right? Path one leads to you not having a real plan for life after retirement, not having control of your time and when you can spend it with your family, feeling overwhelmed with your financial challenges and not knowing what to do about it. Days turning into weeks, weeks turning into months, months turning into years with no real progress being made. But there's another path. Path two leads to being in complete control and capacity of your workload, creating income from the comfort of your own home or anywhere in the world. You have the opportunity to build a business that can leave an inheritance, and ultimately you being able to spend the amount of time with your family that you desire and not the time that's left. So who is this for? It's for you, the true benefactor. It's for you. All right. So just like I said before, this has been an amazing training, and I enjoy being able to share with you all these 2 days of the podcast challenge, right? I really enjoyed it, being able to pour in, and now I'm just going to end out by sharing with you all a few testimonies from some of my clients.
My podcast. Now, shout out to Jonathan Jones, your podcast mentor. Listen, I would not have been able to get this stuff going if it were not for him, because I had a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. And I'm the type of person, I get you have YouTube, but I just need to talk to somebody. And Jonathan made himself available. He made sure that I gave my launch date. He held me accountable to the launch date. He made sure that we kept the date. He made sure that I understood what my podcast was going to be about, my pillars, my titles, lighting, all of those things. And then the icing on the cake was he even showed me a couple apps and things like that where I can break down my episodes, record my episodes, help me set up the podcast, also help me get it on places like Apple, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Like the whole process. I didn't know anything and I didn't have to do anything but what he told me to do. So shout out to Jonathan, your podcast mentor. If you are trying to start your podcast, take it from your boy Words. All right. I've done a lot of work in this industry. I've worked with some amazing people like Eric Thomas and Him 500 and David Shands and Justin Phillips, and the list goes on. All right. I've worked with a lot of people and been able to do a lot of things. But when it came down to me doing something, I like to go to the best. The reason why people come to me because I'm the best. So when I do stuff, I want to go to the best. Jonathan is the best. Let's get it. Ugh.
Hi, my name is Conzo Martin, and I want to give a special thank you to Jonathan Jones on assisting me in the podcast world. He gave me insight on what to do, how to go about it, how to get started. Thank you, Jonathan, for all you do. Take care.
Hey, this is Ariel, host of the Work and Play podcast. And I just want to say, Jonathan Jones has been the dopest podcast mentor ever. So, because I am on my journey of being a podcaster, sponsorships is a growth area for me. Speaking is a growth area for me. Jonathan literally helped me get one of my highest paying sponsorships through a connection that he found. So he connected me. Not only did he connect me with someone who was serious about sponsorships here in Atlanta, but he also consulted me on how to approach this conversation offline. So I know a lot of times I'm really comfortable behind the camera or behind the computer, and I really facilitated this conversation in person from start to finish. And it was all thanks to Jonathan Jones. So thanks so much, Jonathan Jones. I appreciate you being my podcast mentor.
Hello, everyone. My name is RJ Zimmerman, and I am the founder of Untapped Keg, a podcast about sobriety and mental health. And I joined Jonathan's mentorship around February. And before I did that, I was just about to post my 100th episode. But since then, Jonathan has given me an understanding of how powerful my story is. I knew that my podcast had substance, but I didn't understand how my story really played into the substance. There is a lot of times where you think you are ready to do something and you jump into it, and what you really need is somebody behind you who is looking bigger picture, but can also help focus you. I had a lot of aspirations. I had a lot of inspiration, and I was following all of them. But what I needed to do was focus down and really practice on honing my craft. And Jonathan will help you do that. And it's not just Jonathan, but it's the group of people that he has put together. He's going to go out and he's going to put your name out there. He's going to advocate for you. And that is something that you won't find very many other places. You're going to find somebody who cares about you as a person and is a true friend. So I highly, highly recommend signing up for your podcast mentor group with Jonathan Jones because it will change your life like it helped to change mine. Thanks, Jonathan.
I just want to thank Jonathan Jones. I took his class yesterday and I finally learned the steps that I need to take in order to actually execute and create a podcast. I've been wanting to create a podcast for, I would say, about 3 years, but I've been letting fear hold me back because of the unknown, because I didn't know what I needed to do in order to actually create a podcast and get it broadcasted on all of these different platforms. So he gave us his blueprint and his formula to me and my entire community, and I'm just so very grateful because now I'm actually moving the fear, and I'm going to execute and actually do this podcast.
Dr. Derek Burgess, Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. I've benefited from being in the Get Paid with Podcasting family, as well as the course, really by being able to take a closer look to my podcast, being able to really hone in on what it means, being able to focus on the purpose of my podcast. And, I want to use it to inspire others, but also to lead to more speaking engagements. And since I've been involved with this course, I've been a lot more laser focused with making contacts, with following the steps that Jonathan Jones has laid out that has made me successful in getting a live speaking engagement, as well as speaking at a local school and have another speaking engagement coming up. So coming out of the pandemic, I felt like this was the time for me to get back engaged from a speaking standpoint, and being a part of this community has really um, made being part of this community has really pushed me to another level. And I'm really looking forward to continue to grow with you. And thank you for all that you're doing.
Hello, I'm Tim Jackson, host of Ridiculously Blessed Podcast. And I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to Jonathan Jones. Without you, I wouldn't have a podcast. You took me from someone who was afraid to hear their own voice on video to someone who now has a podcast on YouTube. So, again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your information. Thank you for your guidance. Thank you for your support. Thank you for answering my questions in the middle of the night. Thank you for all that you did for me to help me get this podcast going. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, so my name is Jaleesa Smith, and I had a great experience working with Jonathan in the Get Paid with Podcasting program, because the thing is that Jonathan wasn't too pushy. He wasn't like always bugging me to get my podcast out, but he definitely held me accountable to the day that I said I was going to have my podcast out, which honestly, when I said it, I was like, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but it did happen because Jonathan definitely helped to hold me accountable. I also really enjoy the group calls because they're nice and intimate, where we can all kind of like get to know each other and we can all talk to each other. And people, the people like the group they're really engaged and they're really excited about podcasting and about what they're sharing with the world. So I really appreciate that. I also love how in every video call or every coaching call, Jonathan ends with asking us what he can pray with us about. And that's really nice. It's just like you can tell he really cares about us, and he's always passing us new opportunities, whether it's a speaking engagement or whether it's something to apply for, a new grant or anything. So yeah, I really had a good time, and I'm still having a good time in the Get Paid with Podcasting program. So thanks, Jonathan.
Hey, what's up? My name is Ruby A. Jackson, and I'm leaving a recommendation for Jonathan Jones and his Get Paid with Podcasting mentorship program. I was in the program for 8 weeks, and by the end of the program, I left with clarity, confidence, and just really able to communicate my message on who my podcast is for, what my goals and my mission is, and the goals not just for myself, but also the transformation of my audience through listening to the podcast. Jonathan's program is laid out in modules. You can do it at your own pace. And then I would highly recommend that you check out the bonuses. He has lots of bonus videos. So if you are an aspiring podcaster and especially an aspiring speaker, he has some great content for you, some great training. And he is a great coach. He really knows how to dig into your problems and ask those thought-provoking questions so that you can get clarity and you can move forward. So like I said, tap in with Jonathan. You will not be disappointed.
Hello. My name is Ed Jones II, and I am the host of the Player Development Pod. Now, you may be wondering why you're watching this video, why I'm talking about the Player Development Pod. I want to talk to you about Jonathan Jones and the Get Paid with Podcasting program that he has. In 2022, March of 2022, or really February 2022, I really wanted to get into podcasts. And I like podcasts. I listen to podcasts, and I love talking. I love sharing information. And I got with Jonathan, and I said, hey, Jonathan, do you mind helping me? Well, and it happened as we talked. Before I wanted to get with him, I got nervous. And I was like, you know what? I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I can't. And so I went from reaching out to him for him to help me to during the meeting literally being like, no, you know what? I'm good. And he encouraged me and said, Ed Jones, come into my program, and the services that will be provided to you will allow you to reach the goal you want. And I will say this, the return on investment, has far outnumbered the investment. And it has been incredible. I now have 100 podcast episodes. I have over 93,000 plays on my podcast. I have created a player development conference based off my podcast. And last year I was able to bring in $15,000 from the conference, sponsorships, and teaching a live course based off the skills that I learned from podcasting. And what I love about the community that Jonathan Jones has created is it is not a, hey, here's some skills and you're out of there. It is, we meet weekly. He's there for us. He sends us professional development as speakers. He sends us things. He critiques us. He pushes us. He gives us ideas. One idea he gave me literally made me $200 like that. I was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to put out my next conference. He was like, make sure you have a ticket link. Had a ticket link, $200 like that. And so Jonathan has helped me so much, and I've grown so much in this podcasting space, from setting up podcasts to communicating on podcasts to the equipment that I use. He has helped me so much. The biggest thing he helped me with is titles. We had our one-on-one meeting, and he said, Ed Jones, do you want people who know you or people who want to learn about player development to learn more about player development? And I said, of course, I want people who want to learn more about player development to learn about player development. He said, well, your titles are all wrong. And so I'm so thankful for that because it helped my engagement. I currently get about 100 views a week, listens a week. I've taken my podcast and put it on YouTube, and it has blown up. It's just incredible. I actually looked at stats today. My biggest genre is millennials and Gen Z. I have a lot of listens out of the country. Australia is one of the biggest countries outside of the United States that listens to my podcast the most. And so I have achieved what I wanted to achieve, and I'm going to achieve so much more because I was in the Get Paid with Podcasting program with Jonathan Jones. Once again, I went from 0 episodes to 100. He said, most don't get to 7. Then he said, most don't get to 25. Here I am at 100 with 100 more ahead of me. I am so thankful, so thankful for Jonathan Jones and all that he's poured into his program and the investment he's made into those who are part of the program. Well, that's what I have there. If you're looking to see how I've grown, check out the Beyond the Field Player Development Pod. Yes, the Player Development Pod presented by Beyond the Field. Once again, my name is Ed Jones. Me and Jonathan are not related in any way, but he's done a great job. And you too can keep up with the Joneses. Have a great one.
Greetings, everyone. So I joined the Get Paid with Podcasting family June of 2023. It is now October 2nd, 2023, and it has been an amazing experience. I did not have clarity on who my target audience was. I didn't have the confidence on my message in regards to my podcast. I am now launched my podcast. I have already hosted a podcast private networking event at the Podcast Summit in Miami 2023. I have guests that have applied to be on my podcast, and my podcast is now a big movement within my family and now starting to migrate into my community. It is allowing me to not only be vocal, but also visible as a person that has PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, and stage 4 endometriosis. It's been a wonderful experience being a part of the Get Paid with Podcasting family. Tremendous support and knowledge helping me build that foundation, but also having that family, that community to help me get out of my mind because I can be an overthinker. So thank you, Get Paid with Podcasting families, for being a part of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives journey. Thank you, podcast mentor and coach Jonathan Jones, for just walking in your ministry and showing up every single week and every single day. We have a question or need some support, or even just giving us the game and telling us to go run the play. So I appreciate you. I love you, and I am grateful for you. And thank you for being a part of Empowered Plates and Empowered Lives.